In this lesson, we are building on what we have already learned about solving two-step equations, and we will be solving equations that might have like terms or they might have parentheses, which means we need to use distributive property. So on your notes page, you'll notice the same boxes that we've been using, except that there is a new step, and that is right underneath the box where we are writing the equation. There's a new step, and it says use distributive property and or combine like terms. So let's go ahead and see what this will look like. Here is an example. I can see this problem has parentheses in it, which means I'm going to be using the distributive property. But my first step here is going to just be to copy the equation, and then of course to put in my balance line. My balance line reminds me that what I do on one side, I do to the other. So I've written the equation, and now I'm using the guide here on the left to tell me what I should be doing next, and it says that I should use the distributive property. And I can tell there's distributive property when I see a number right next to a set of parentheses. It says to distribute or hand out that front number to all of the pieces within the parentheses. So I'm going to begin by doing -2 times x, which is -2x. And then I need to do -2 times -6, which will give me a +12. And I'm going to write the rest of the equation in the same blue pen because the rest of the equation hasn't changed. So I just showed how I distributed using green, and I copied everything else in blue so that I could see what has changed and what hasn't. Now I need to combine like terms. And remember, like terms are terms that have the same variable to the same power or constants. And I happen to have two constants here that I can combine. So I'm not quite done with this step yet because I can combine +12 and +7. That's going to give me a +19. So now my equation is -2x plus 19 equals 35. This new equation that I've written looks just like the equations that you've been working with. It is now a two-step problem. You guys are experts at solving two-step problems. This shouldn't be very difficult for us to do. It was just doing this first step. So my question again will be, what is the variable? In this problem, it is an x. Of course, I'll ask you to circle the x with its coefficient, which in this case is -2. Now I need to use inverse operations to undo addition and subtraction. I see that I have a +19. The opposite of a +19 is a -19. And please show on your notes that this becomes 0. This is a 0 pair. And what I am left with now, -2x is all that's here on the left. And on the other side, I'll need to combine 35 and -19. Different signs, so we subtract. 35 take away 19 is 16, and it's positive because the 35 is larger. And my final step here will be to undo the addition, or excuse me, the multiplication or division. I know that there is some multiplication hiding in there. I don't see it because I don't write it. The opposite of times by -2 is divide by -2. What I do on one side, I do to the other. And I'm going to show that -2 divided by -2, that's a big 1, the whole number 1. But you know I'm not going to write 1x. I'm just going to write x. And 16 divided by -2 is -8. I would like you to please do the check portion tonight as homework. And remember, you can always pause these videos and rewind, but I've got one more equation that I would like for us to try. I begin by writing the equation 23 minus 7 times the quantity x plus 3 plus 5x equals 10. The first thing that I'll have you do is to put in that balance line that reminds me what I do on one side, I do to the other. And I see that my instructions here on the left now tell me that I need to use the distributive property. And I have distributive property. It's right here. I've got to do -7 times x And I've got to do negative 7 times 3, which is negative 21. I'm going to copy the rest of this equation in blue so that you can see I didn't change the 23, I didn't change the 5x, I didn't change the 10. All I've done so far is distribute. But now I need to combine like terms. And we remember that like terms are terms with the same variable to the same power and also constants. So I see a negative 7x and a plus 5x. Together, that gives me negative 2x. They were different signs, so I subtracted. The 7 was larger and it's negative. That's where I came up with negative 2x. I also have two constants, 23 and negative 21. Remember that symbol in front of the 21 belongs to it. So if I combine 23 and negative 21, I'm going to get a positive 2. And so far, nothing has changed with the 10. But now I have an equation that looks just like all the two-step equations that I've been working on. Negative 2x plus 2 equals 10. I'd like you to finish solving this equation, two-step equation, and please make sure you do this final step of checking your solution. That will tell you immediately if you've solved it correctly.